That was a weird movie.
Darkest movie. Darkest movie.
For a PG-13 movie, that is probably the
Was that
darkest.
PG-13?
That was
Yeah, it had to
PG-13.
be. That's a kid.
It was a PG-13 movie, but that was the darkest PG-13 movie I have ever seen in theaters, at least.
It was. Would you say it was intentionally a pitch black comedy, or was it?
I think it was. I think the people who created this movie knew very well that when you have a kid, a precocious little 12-year-old, talk to a doctor about how he's dying with such clinical terms, there is no way you can play that off without having some kind of morbid sense of humor.
Yeah.
Spoilers, by the way, but. But yeah, that is this is one of the most unique movies we've seen this year.
Yeah, definitely. It was so interesting that I only had to eat one of my bags of Takis. So that's.
That like you thought you had to nourish your belly, but your mind was being nourished.
I mean, I was reaching for them, and it was like, I don't need this.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we're going to go into more spoiler territory. Yeah. So just going to throw that out there. If you don't, believe it or not, there are things to be spoiled in this movie. So and I think I already kind of did, but whatever. Go see the movie. However way you can. We had to go see it at.
You really did kind of open with the biggest fucking spoiler.
All right, honestly, I don't think anyone really cares about spoilers so much, or at least if they do care about it, they don't wait for our opinion on it before seeing the movie. I like to think so, anyway. But
I get a lot of shit when I spoil things. I know when we previously decide that we're not going to.
Yeah,
so I'll give you that.
Yeah, like I had no idea what this movie was going to be about when we came into the theater. Book of Henry, by the way, if you forgot what you clicked on. But I only saw like one trailer before I showed Gabe the trailer, and I was
like, was that the trailer?
Yeah, that was the trailer
you saw when you showed me it.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
So like
we both saw the same trailer at the same time, and immediate reaction for me was that this was going to be an extremely unintentional comedy. Like one of the greatest, but I have to. It was clearly intentional. It has to have been.
And the thing, the beauty of this movie is that if it was an intentional comedy or whether it was unintentional, everyone sold it like like it was.
They straight face through it. Yeah.
Straight face through it. So no matter if it was intentional or not, they sold it, and that's what counts in the end. So to see Naomi Watts. A mom to a very, very intelligent 12-year-old basically kowtow to her 12-year-old son because he knows better than her is one of the most surreal and yet endlessly hysterical moments of my movie-going career, if I could call this a career. I was surprised.
Wait, is that what this is? A career?
I would like to think so.
Wait, is that like something I can put on my resume that I watch movies? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, like, considering what we do it every week. I mean,
I'm
like,
professional reviewer, motherfucker.
Put that on your business card.
Yeah.
But I am amazed how long that joke goes and how long it stays funny.
The whole movie is really the whole movie, because it transcends that point at the halfway point where he dies. Since you already...
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like, I don't get two shits at this point. But I think that's why I don't consider it too bad of a twist, because it happens in the middle of the movie. Because there's more to the movie after he dies. And I think that's where the movie gets the strongest, as far as actual movie making is concerned. But as far as the humor is concerned, like, the first half is just... it's a very surreal comedy. It blends two genres that I never thought that would coincide together. You blend the like the Prodigy movie, like A Beautiful Mind and such, and you blend that with like feel good family movie like Matilda. I half expected Rusted Roots, Send Me on My Way to be playing in the beginning of the movie.
That would have been perfect. But this seriously felt like a prequel to a superhero movie, like. You said like
Iron Man.
Perhaps Iron Man. That's a good one. It definitely felt like it could have been that. It's almost like if you took the kid from Daredevil and when they show him as a kid and he gets blinded and everything. Like if you just made a whole movie out of that, Except this was like way more funny.
Way more.
Because he's a genius as a kid. And he has even emotionally, for the most part, he's just like an adult. Like a really wise, intelligent adult.
He's an emotional, mature kid, like both intellectually and emotionally, as you said, and psychologically.
Yeah, and the kid sells it damn well.
Yeah, that kid is going places. I think we found a gem in the rough, as it were, with this kid. I wish I can remember his name. He has a fairly unusual name. It was one of those last names where it feels like somebody spilled a bunch of consonants. And you're not quite sure how to pronounce it because it should never be pronounced the way it's spelled. But regardless, special commendation has to go to Naomi Watts for one of the most dismantling performances. Just this absolute tour de force performance, ranging from every single corner of not only an emotional spectrum, but from like a developmental angle. Like at the beginning of the movie, she's playing Gears of War, for crying out loud, while her 12-year-old child does their business.
And she levels up in it too,
which I found to be like she must have been playing something else, or something like that.
But then for the sake of, they decide Gears of War later.
Or like they probably could get the license for the Gears of War footage in the movie, but they couldn't get what she was originally playing. Either that, or they didn't give two shits whether or not you could actually level up in Gears of War or not. But I will say that I'll say that going back to Naomi Watts, like her going from that perspective, like her just handling down a waitress job at the local pie place.
With Sarah Silverman.
Oh, yeah. And another good, weird performance from Sarah Silverman. Not a bad performance, but weird. We'll get into her a little bit. But from her, like, just holding down a job, just seemingly to keep herself busy, because they're independently well off. Because, of course the kid knows how to work the stock markets and be able to...
Oh, no, he is the adult in the family.
Oh, yeah.
He does everything.
Pretty much. He's the one who tells Naomi to, like, don't curse in front of my little brother, or don't do this and don't do that, and he's right about everything. And
he does everything but tuck his mom away for sleepy time.
Yeah, and that was, like, on one hand, that's so hysterically funny to me because, again, one of the best parts in a movie like A Wet Hot American Summer was when Molly Shannon had that emotional breakdown, and it took a kid to bring her through that.
Great example. It is very much like that, the movie.
Yeah, but like it's like taking that one scene and then stretching it as far as you can realistically go as far as movie, and it never tires. Even when the movie goes into dramatic territory, when he gets brain cancer, when he gets a tumor inside his brain, in fact it is a tumor, and the rest of the movie is ostensibly about Naomi learning how to cope with not only his death, but also learn to be finally an adult, which comes from a weird angle because, like, how in the world did she, like, get along this far in life? Like, you think, like, when he was born as a 2-year-old, is like, no, you gotta wipe first and then put on the diaper. Let me do it. Like, I think at a certain point she must have had her shit together and then kind of lost her shit when he started.
You don't hear much about her ex-husband or whatever,
or like I don't know, like
father.
Like you never heard about the father in the family. I don't think.
Not that it was. It's certainly not that it was necessary, but you don't hear about it.
But it's not. I wouldn't necessarily think the movie would have been stronger had he been a part of the movie, or at least even been in passing. But
they already had one bad male to focus on.
Yeah, like that would have crowded certainly would have crowded the movie with that. But I do wonder, like, the relationship that she shared with her son back when he was like a 3-year-old. Because I think that would have been even more hysterical. Like again, going back to Matilda, it would have been very much a Matilda situation where he basically made himself breakfast in the morning and used his own special intellect abilities to, be telepathic and just dance around. If they actually pulled that supernatural shit in this movie, I would not be surprised. But
I would be surprised. Well, at a certain point, I would. Like if they, when he's dying, and suddenly he's like helping them remove the tumor using his astral projection, like Doctor Strange does when he's being operated on. He's hovering over him, telling him where to put it and everything, and No, steady. Don't use that.
Like,
No.
like one of the darkest but the most hysterical parts of this movie is when he's recuperating from the initial surgery to see if they can remove his tumor, but they can't. And the surgeon rather comes down to him and says like, something, you have something in your brain, and he's talking down to him as you would any 12-year-old, and then he's just like cuts right through the bullshit and just says, "Is it longitudinal, right hemisphere? Oh, I should have known this was coming."
I mean, I thought that it was just stress with when the headache started and everything, and
Like, it's like, is it past stage 2 lesion sarcoma? And
it's
like,
good. You can remember all that.
yeah, I know. It's from there, from there. That was like I had to kind of go like this because, oh god, this was so hysterically funny to me.
Even we were in Summerfield Artsy Theater where we had some older people in the audience. Not very many, but there was people in the audience. But the ones who were definitely the very staunch kind of like.
Yeah, like they were.
This is a place to view and nothing else.
But there was some snickering. I think they knew that this was supposed to be
just a wee bit at certain points.
a respectful amount of tittering,
but not like us.
Oh no. We just like we didn't want to be the loudest people in the theater, but we
didn't want to be, but.
It was like it was that funny to us, and it was that relentlessly funny.
It was just hit after hit.
Yeah, like you would be so surprised how strong the laughs can keep coming with ostensibly the same joke. Actually, I take that back. I take back the when he was talking about the tumor inside his head in the middle of the movie as being the funniest. No, the funniest part and the darkest part happens near the middle of the first act when the actual plot of the movie, believe it or not. The death of a child is not really the plot of the movie. What really is the plot of the movie is that their next door neighbor is abusing his stepdaughter.
Not the funny part.
Not the funny part, but the funniest part was when Henry, the genius, sees her with a black eye, and then he just loses his shit. He just steps out of his class, goes to the principal's office, and then just has this screaming, almost Aaron Sorkin-like argument with the principal, where it was just like, "What's with this bullshit, Miranda?" It's like, that's Mrs. Smith to you. It's like, I don't care. Like, why? How many times do I have to tell you about this child? And he holds up this pamphlet about child abuse. I'm like, does this mean nothing to you? Slapping right down on the table. It's like, ah.
Yeah, that's great.
It's like, what? This is not
comedy gold.
Comedy gold is like, we're talking about child abuse, but why is this so hysterically funny?
And the person who's abusing the girl is the same guy from Breaking Bad who plays the
Hank.
Hank, thank you. Yeah, Hank. Thank you, Hank.
Yeah. Like Hank from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So that was, oh boy, that's. I mean, I hate to be typecast like that guy, but
yeah.
But you look a certain way and you need a certain part, I suppose.
Yeah.
But him talking like an adult in these extreme mitigating circumstances, like surrounding death of a child or surrounding child abuse, it's the same thing. Like if he was a clown. Like, for some reason or another, like, he was always dressed up in a clown outfit. And as he walks away, you can hear the honking of his shoes. It's like, he's just a clown, right? Like, that's what he does for a living, and that's what he does. But, like, it would be like if he was a clown, but he was still dealing with the same situations.
Yeah, but taking it seriously, you mean? But he's just dressed like a clown?
But he's just dressed like a clown because that's, Like, he's constantly getting away from a child's birthday party, and he learns that he has, brain tumor. It's like, give it to me straight, Doc!
And he speaks the same way, dude.
What part of that?
It's fair. Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Because what they're talking about is very, very serious. But once you change one aspect, one element of that scene that we've seen a bunch of times, people talking about child abuse, people talking about the death of a child, and you remove one of it and replace it, instantly funny.
Yep.
Instantly funny. Like if he wasn't a child, you wouldn't necessarily have to change a single word of it. If he wasn't a child. Like, if he was just, like, a 25-year-old dude, and it's like he was talking to that woman, the principal, or he was talking to... then you wouldn't necessarily have to change a word. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he's just a kid, I have never seen one joke written so hard and yet so far in a movie, at least for Sage Versus. That was... Except for... No, not even the farting in Swiss Army Man had that lasting staying power. Because they had to keep reinventing the fart joke with them,
Yeah.
The cork up the butt scene.
It was the most difficult to do.
Mm.
Making a fart joke a whole movie is, and having it become, you know, the amazing movie that was so introspective, like Swiss Army Man was.
It's like
was incredible.
That was a deft hand, but this was just so.
I'm not going to compare this movie to the. It wasn't as good as. It
Oh,
was on that level.
It wasn't that level. It wasn't.
But it was damn good for what it was.
Oh yeah. So, but like the plot of trying to save Maddie Ziegler, the stepdaughter who's being abused, it kind of takes a back seat by the end of the first act, and then is reintroduced by the third act after Henry is dead, and then it becomes sort of like this. Like, this is where the movie gets weird and awesomely weird. It's when Naomi Watts gets a book that Henry was written, hence the title of the movie, where he details in extreme detail how to kill Maddie's dad.
So his last wish is for her to kill Hank, or
or
whatever his name was.
They said his name enough. That was actually kind of a running gag with the movie.
Yeah.
So, but holy. It was like his Make-A-Wish Foundation, wish. It was like, I want this serial abuser dead.
It's like, a kid, it's dying wish. You have to do it.
It's like, you gotta do it. Like, this kid's dying of a brain tumor. That guy's got he's worm food.
Yeah.
That is, like, little moments like that even though they hang on them a little bit, just enough for you to, like, realize, like, how ridiculous the situation is. It works. It still works, and again, once Henry's out of the picture, Naomi Watts has to really shoulder the brunt of the rest of the movie, and she does a fantastic job up until the end. So like the make or break of this film, after the conceit of a genius child, basically in non-child situations, is taken out of the movie, it's up to Naomi to carry the rest of it, as she does very admirably. And speaking of kudos performance, Maddie Ziegler, like, there's a point in the movie, towards the end of the movie, where she does a ballet dance, and they probably wrote that into the movie because Maddie Ziegler is an actual ballet dancer. Mm-hmm. So, just like, hey, we got Maddie, who is famous. Well, I think she was on Dance Moms.
Oh.
She was a standout person on Dance Moms, so, like, she actually got starting to get a career in Hollywood because of that.
Nice.
Yeah, good for her. She has a lot of talent, and nowhere is it more appropriate. Nowhere is it more apparent here than in this movie, and in her contributions to the Sia music videos. Yeah. Like, that's the same girl. From those Sia music videos, the little girl with the blonde hair that is Sia for those movies. That's her. That's Maddie Ziegler.
I don't think I.
Yeah, you never. You remember the Elastic Heart video with Shia LaBeouf? And
that was her?
That was her. That was Maddie Ziegler.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, right?
Yeah, she's incredible.
Yeah. She puts on. There's a talent show, and she does this ballet interpretive dance. And as far as the physical performance is concerned, she's performing well beyond her years. Maddie can't be more than 12 or 13. And that is, and the way she can evoke emotions, just through movement, which she did not only in like I say, the Elastic Heart music video, but also here, was it's sort of a revelation of what she can do, and what she can do later on, as long as she can be used properly. I mean, I'm not asking for every Maddie Ziegler role from now on to have okay, she's in a superheroine movie now, but now she also has to do a ballet dance.
Oh, you mean she should have played Black Widow?
Eventually, those movies are going to have to be rebooted. Eventually. Scarlett Johansson isn't going to be in her 30s forever.
It's true.
So, I feel that, all the child actors in this movie, even the little brother, the little, 6-year-old brother, 6 or 7-year-old brother, were, why can't more movies find child actors like this?
Yeah.
It's there wasn't a weak link in any of them. No one was annoying. No one was And then when they were used for comedic effect. Like that one
Oh,
kid.
the rapper. Or I mean, that was the most adorable school bully I've ever seen.
Want to step to this? You must be fronting.
He was the most adorable person in the whole movie.
I know. That was he really was. But I alluded to her earlier in our discussion, but I think we need to talk about Sarah Silverman.
Yeah, we do.
We
very much do.
While the singular joke of the child genius drove pretty much all the comedy, his back and forth with Sarah Silverman is
pitch perfect.
Just pitch perfect. And
so good.
It was so... Like, I would imagine that the reason why they made this movie was just so that they could have this alcoholic, like, acerbic, you know, like this East Coast, like, yeah, what do you want kind of woman.
Yeah.
Talking to this 12-year-old, this intellectual, almost damn near aristocratic 12-year-old. It's like there could not be more diametric opposites in both these characters.
Yeah, and their jabbing is so good.
Like, she keeps calling him Hank, and he's like, it's Henry. Looking radiant as ever.
Fashion, how you doing, fashion roadkill?
It's like they're sparring with each other. It's like she's trading verbal jabs with a 12-year-old. Come on.
But then, you know, when it turns out that he's dying, and she comes to visit him, he admits that it's all, you know, what did he say?
Like it was they were acting opposite of what their actual true feelings is like.
Well, the word for it.
But the word for it escapes me at the moment.
Yeah,
but they're just saying like, oh, we like each other, so therefore
Yeah.
we're just kind of snipping at each other. And then out of nowhere, Sarah Silverman plants a kiss on him, and I haven't seen a moment like that since Blank Check. Where like
it was really, and she has her like cleavage all the way.
Yeah, like, and she has a tattoo, like, right
and
there.
She's got a flower tattoo and everything. Right?
In fact, they make a joke about that.
And she just gives him all of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she leans over to kiss him, and it's just, like, right in his face. Yeah, that was pretty Blank Checky.
Yeah, very Blank Checky. Although,
Yeah.
it's not as bad as Blank Check, because Preston in that movie could not have been more than 10. Maybe 11 or 12, but...
Like, this actor clearly knew the joke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could not have sold this without knowing the joke.
No, but... kind of a brave move there on everyone's part there. I'm not quite sure, how I feel about it, really, because on one hand, 12-year-old boy, on the other, dying 12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like it's sort of like, you know, juggling. I'm just thinking like that scene would not fly if it was like an alcoholic man and a 12-year-old genius girl and she's dying.
Yeah, you bet it wouldn't.
Yeah, it would not. So on one hand, so just by the virtue of, you know, like the transitive property here, this should not fly as well. But
no, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but I think it's at the exact same time, I think they play it off too well for it to not like work from a comedic perspective.
Ideally, it shouldn't, but it. Yeah.
It's like, you made out with a dying 12-year-old boy? Sarah Silverman? Sorry, not you, Sarah Silverman, your character. But there. Last thing I need right now is.
Yes, but when you put it that way, it's like, yeah, you think about it from the opposite standpoint.
Yeah, that wouldn't necessarily fly. I mean, like...
we have reached this point in our culture where we are questioning ourselves. Isn't this wonderful?
Isn't this wonderful? Like, I'm not going to pretend that it's not... that it's not funny, because it is.
I mean, welcome to the growing pains of, equality.
Yeah, no, right? It's like, I'm looking at that scene, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to deny it's not funny, because it is. But on the other hand, it's just like, it's so messed up that it's... that they could get away with that, but if the genders were reversed, they could not get away with that. Nor, realistically, would I want them to.
Yeah.
So it's like, ugh. That means I feel bad for liking this. I mean, it's, you know what it is? It's,
you and me both.
It's like, it's, you know what it is? It's a fine instance of cognitive dissonance. Yeah. Your feelings are saying like, oh, that's awesome and funny. But your intellectual side is like, but that is so problematic, and that is not, like that. So, as long as you come to terms with your own feelings about that, and as long as
another good example would be in God, I think the movie was Super.
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 It was just
Super.
It was just Super with Rainn Wilson
Rainn
and
Wilson.
oh yeah, I know what scene you're referring to.
And what's her? God, I am just having
Emily.
one of those nights.
I believe it was Paige.
Emily Page. I think that's
it was
right.
like Paige or
Something Page.
Something Page. Ellen Page.
Ellen
Ellen Page. There we go.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's that rape scene is
Yeah.
an example of that, where it's like, okay, now let's flip it around. Not gonna fly.
It's not gonna fly at all. Like, you could try to make the argument that the humor is not so much that because the roles have been reversed, but because Ellen Page is like 5 foot nothing,
Yeah,
scrawny 5 foot, and then you wouldn't,
and he's
and he's not that scrawny.
No.
So. But then you also have to come in and like,
what is the joke here?
Like, what is the joke here? It's just like you're. It's one of those moments where it's like you see it and you laugh, but then you have to think later, why am I laughing?
Yeah.
And
but that scene was kind of like I think it was kind of a mix of comedy, but definitely very, very much on the dramatic side, the dark side.
I mean, like,
and it was hard to tell which point you were supposed to be at for that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Until we get down into the nitty gritty of it, and then you kind of know.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, this is just bad.
It was just like a pitch black scene. It was a Super especially was a pitch black comedy, and this was not nearly as pitch black, but it was but for a PG-13 movie. Oh yeah, it gets dark, and it gets real. I think one of the more sobering scenes, and there are plenty of sobering scenes, is when during a manic bit. Where she's where Naomi's making dinner and she says, "We'll just have dessert for morning, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner." And it takes her 6-year-old son's like, calm down. It's like, don't talk to me like a kid. It's like even her 6-year-old, who is not a genius, who is not
telling her not to talk to him like a kid.
That is, that hits hard.
Yeah.
And I think the only last thing I want to talk about this movie is like that one last scene towards the end where I thought that the movie was just going to sucker punch me, because we both thought it was going to happen.
So at the very end, there's a talent show, and the talent show coincides with the scene where she's getting. She's trying to assassinate. It's what it feels like. She's got a nest. He's a police commissioner, and she's got this whole nest.
It's that he's the brother of the police.
He's the brother of the police commissioner.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, what the fuck was his job? That he was just.
He was just a guy. It just looked like he was just a putz.
Wow. So. Yeah, so she's listening to. She has this Walkman with all the instructions from Henry. And
it's perfectly timed.
It's perfectly timed with. She is such a predictable person that he's able to anticipate every single thing she's going to do and reaction she's going to have. And it's kind of just like, oh, you poor thing, you are so predictable.
And I was wondering, is this all in her head or something? Because that's the only explanation I could.
And for all intents and purposes, it wasn't. It turns out
it wasn't. That's where I thought
she has to actually burn the tape at the end so no one can find the evidence.
Yeah. So...
And she doesn't. Spoilers. She doesn't kill him.
Mm-hmm.
She's about to, though. I mean, she goes all the way. She she does training at a shooting ground, and he's telling her, "Oh, good shot, Mom."
Look at that grouping.
Look at that grouping. There was a good point where she starts talking like she's actually thinks he's there. It's like she's.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I mean, it's like when I was looking at that girl and that dead look in her eyes, and he's like, "Good shot, Mom." and then she's like, "Oh yeah, that he's not really there, is he?" It's like, "Oh, you Naomi Watts, great. You are playing such a.
That was a beautiful little moment. But so the whole setup, the whole climax is that they're luring Hank out into the woods so that she could snipe him. Yeah. But then through a Rube Goldberg, one of his pastimes was that he built Rube Goldberg machines just to build things.
It's Tony Stark prequel.
Yeah, that's where we got the Tony Stark idea. But it seemed that his little brother was playing around with it, and he made a little device where the whole Rube Goldberg machine just leads to a little scrapbook opening and seeing all the pictures. And Naomi, just as about she's lining up her sights, sees that and realizes, wait a minute, I'm the adult here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the adult here.
It's like he really is just a child on some level. Maybe He, didn't know what he was doing on some level.
On some level, like he was smart enough to plan an assassination that would be the perfect crime.
But I think she realized that, and they do a good job of showing this throughout the film, that he does have this kind of naive perspective of helping other people out whenever he sees wrongdoing.
Yeah. So
again, superhero prequel.
Yeah, naive perspective, where basically he said that, like, violence isn't the worst thing in the world.
Apathy is.
And
violence isn't the worst thing in the world, Mom.
Mom.
It is apathy.
Apathy.
I was born in it.
Like, I wouldn't necessarily consider this a superhero origin. Maybe like a super villain origin. The way
if it's Bane, though, it has to be a kid with the mask.
Like headgear. Like he had like really, really bad teeth, so he had the headgear.
He had to wear headgear. Nobody cared about me. Mom said I put on the headgear.
Now I get swirlies every day. It seems victory has defeated me. But she has that revelation, and she just says, "No, I'm going to confront him face to face." And sure enough, the principal has a change of heart and realizes, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to file a logistical complaint. And apparently now it's way too big for his brother to cover up, and he just kills himself. Hank just kills himself.
The point is that it takes a kid dying for other people to do the right thing.
Yeah, if there is a lesson to be learned from this movie. But the one point of this movie where we thought that we were going to be swerved was all of a sudden, during the end of the talent show, Henry's little brother wheels in this gigantic box, and he was going to put on a magic act where he says, "And I will make my brother reappear." And we're thinking, no, you motherfucker, no, don't. I don't know how.
It's like, you motherfuckers, you were gonna ruin the whole thing,
and then
you were tainting this movie.
But no, he just opens it up, and a bunch of confetti pours out, which begs the question: why the hell did he even say that?
I figured he was trying to bring the spirit of his brother into the place, because I put together that basically his brother for all the talent shows probably did these inventions, that did things. Maybe he did the snow one before, and so he was like, I'm going to bring my brother back for parentheses for one night.
For one night, I suppose. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily not buy that, but if that was the case, I would wish that there was a
little bit more of a connection to the fact that he has done that before.
Yeah,
because it did really feel like it was going to turn out this was all like an act.
If the parents were walking by like a display case of previous photos of talent shows, and there's him with one of his Rube Goldberg machines.
It's gonna turn out there was, and we just missed it. Like maybe you went when you had to go to the bathroom.
Well, yeah,
and then maybe I dropped my phone at a certain point. I had to pick it up, and that's when they did it.
Yeah, I mean, if that was the case, then we apologize completely. We've been totally wrong about shit like this before, and we'll wear it if that happens to be the case. But I'm operating under the assumption that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I did like the transparency of that swerve. I suppose is
it would have been so bad if it turned out that the whole thing was an act, a plan. Then he comes out of the box. It's like, this is what we had to do, and you see back at this point, this point, and this point. It's like, this contrived whole.
I actually kind of would have respected the movie a little bit, just to see
to see all the other shots of the scenes where he was in the background, crouching behind a desk or something like that. It's or even worse. Magic, real, just it's a miracle.
He had to somehow he tapped into the amount in his family's bank account to pay off the doctor to sign off on the death account and stuff.
Shia LaBeouf twist, actually. Sorry, Shamalama Ding Dong twist. How did I say Shia LaBeouf?
Shama.
It's because we were talking about him earlier.
Yeah.
No, Shamalama Ding Dong. Mm-hmm. It turns out that he's like Legion.
It's like a collective consciousness or something like that.
Yeah. This is another universe.
There was sort of a gotcha moment in the movie, and it was such a transparent gotcha moment that I actually kind of wanted it for them to burn down the entire movie by the end, and actually reveal that he's kind of fine. Because there's a little
part of you that wants that.
Yeah,
and that's the sign of a good movie.
It's like
if you're like, oh, I hope that motherfucker stays dead, the movie didn't do a very good job, did it?
Like, there's a part of you. I guess you could say that if the character was effective enough that you'd want the story to literally bend the narrative backwards to try and bring them back to life, then I guess you could say that they did its job. I
They're
suppose.
super dark.
Mm.
Pulls his corpse out of the box. And he's still dead. It's like he's alive.
He's alive. I'm like,
Oh God!
how are you doing, Henry? I'm just fine.
Oh God! I can be smart like my brother, and he can bring him back. Ah!
Or they could do like a Full Metal Alchemist situation where he tries to bring her back through
Yeah.
science, but then
You brought me back.
Well,
This was an interesting movie.
this was an interesting, fun movie, and God, there was so much breadth to this movie on the emotional spectrum that there's not one singular reaction to this movie. It's laughter, it's sadness, it's confusion, it's a lot of things. This movie makes you feel a lot of things, and very rarely do I have that kind of a reaction and experience.
I didn't cry like in Wonder Woman though. I'd actually not a tear.
Not a tear, but like keep in mind you were crying tears of joy. That's not the
That's
next.
a good point. But
That's not crying tears of sadness.
That's true.
I have a feeling that if we had gone to see Transformers next week, you'd be crying tears of
sadness.
But luckily for you and for me, I will be out of town that week.
Yes, because you're going to Philly.
I'm going to Too Many Games in Philadelphia
right.
next week, so you get a reprieve.
That's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
You review anime and you go to Too Many Games, but not Fanime.
I could either go to one or the other, and the May was not kind to me financially.
Mm-hmm.
It's not kind of much of anyone on financially as far as YouTube's concerned, but you got a deal. Well, next week, as I said, we'll be absent, but the week after, we're going to be... Thank you. You know, if you're going to have that attitude, why might as well just go see Transformers, just delay it a week. If nothing's really coming out, if nothing interesting comes out the week after, I'm not quite sure what's going to be coming after Transformers, or if there's going to be any kind of, like... It could be another case of this week where, like, the most interesting movie to talk about is, like, one that's not in the mainstream theaters. Maybe that's the case. Because, as far as I'm concerned, we've seen way too many blockbusters.
I mean...
way too many major releases.
We've reviewed Transformers how many times now?
Just once. It
feels like more than once.
Well, that's because we've reviewed a lot of movies that try to be Transformers and failed.
It was really only one time.
Age of Extinction. That's the only Transformers.
I'll be damned. It seriously feels like we've done 3. Wow.
Yep. You know, we missed Dark of the Moon. We missed Transformers 2. So, yep.
You've seen one review of those movies. You've really seen them all. So.
It seems to be the argument.
But. Do it all over again.
Mm-hmm. You know what it was? It was probably because those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Transformers with green blurs of CG instead of silver.
Yep. Well, as I said, we'll see you all in 2 weeks. So take care.